fascinated you to go into a subject like linguistics? Because according to our Indian tradition, our education system, we aren't that accustomed to a subject like this, and none of us, we're not that knowledgeable about this kind of subject. That's why no one ends up taking it, because the education isn't as good here for linguistics. So what made you be that one odd one out of everybody else to decide and go take such a subject?
It's kind of accidents of life.
Okay.
So the one pattern that I have found in my own education is that anything that I was compelled to learn, I just didn't want to learn. So this is how I hated physics, because I was forced to learn it, so I didn't like it. Then my father said, when I was doing physics undergraduate, I was reading all the English literature. So my father thought I was interested in English literature. He said, why don't you take an MA in English literature? So I thought that may be a good idea, but when I joined the course, I discovered I didn't want to learn. So at that time, I learned philosophy and psychology instead. So anything that I wasn't expected to learn, I would learn. That was the idea. I bumped into linguistics by accident, and I got interested and learned the stuff and started writing research papers. Then I accidentally met an MIT professor, Paul Kipaski. I couldn't get any feedback on my papers, so I gave the papers to him and said, can you give me some feedback to improve my papers? And he gave me fairly detailed comments. And then he said, so what are you doing with these papers? And are you going to do your PhD? I said, no, there's no provision for that. So he said, why don't you apply to MIT? So I didn't, at that point, MIT was some kind of, in some other planet.
This was a long time ago. So
but since he said that, I did apply and I got in. He must have recommended.
Yeah.
And at MIT, nobody tried to teach me anything. They said, come work with us. It was a kind of like a bunch of potters making pots. And they said, join us. So I learned not by explicit teaching, but by observing what other people are doing. It's like, think of a room full of painters and they're painting. And they say, paint with us. And so occasionally they would look at your painting and say, why don't you try this? So it was kind of like a collective apprenticeship. And I learned how to do research. And then, of course, I got completely addicted. That's how it happened. So it was just accidents of history, as I said.
Yeah. That's the majority of the things that happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
it's just good fortune, that's all.
Good fortune. That's how most things run right now. I mean, life doesn't always go the way we want it to, so things happen for the best. Okay, so again, I'm going to go more towards the linguistic side of it, because I feel that is the key to our future, and how that can be linked to other disciplines. So what else disciplines do you think linguistics can be linked to? How can it change the future? How does it change the way we perceive scientific inquiry or humanities, for example, right? How can we interlink, like you said, trans education? Of course, we don't have that kind of education, but how do you think all this can be interconnected and change or revolutionize the future of mankind itself?
So linguistics, at least the kind of linguistics that I learned from MIT, is theoretical linguistics.
Yeah.
And what I learned from there was how to construct linguistic theories. And this is not something that is taught in schools and colleges. How do you construct a theory? As a first-year graduate student, I was expected to contribute to linguistic theory by creating linguistic theories, number one. Number two, I was expected to challenge my teachers. I was expected to show that my teachers were wrong, which was a very different kind of culture. So they kind of had a poor opinion of students who accepted anything that the teachers said. Only those students who challenged the teachers were seen as good students, which is notice that it's a very different kind of culture. And so what I acquired was a different kind of academic culture, which exists only in some small islands of this kind. And I think linguistics as a subject is eminently suitable for that kind of learning, theory construction, because you can get data fairly easily. You can get the data in a given classroom. Unlike, for example, physics or biology or anything like that, where you have to, maybe you have to go to a lab to collect the data. At least you have to go outside of the classroom to collect the data. Linguistics and probably ethics will be the only subjects where you can get data from within the classroom. So experimental data in the classroom, theory construction in the classroom, everything in the classroom with like 40, 50 students is doable. And that experience of constructing theories can be transferred to science, math, other kinds of theories. So we're teaching a course on scientific theory construction using language data in November in Mumbai University. It's a 9-day course. And I think that is where the value of linguistics lies. If you want to learn how to construct experiments, design experiments, psychology would be a good place. Yeah. So each subject has its own special advantages, and you have to figure out what those things are and design courses such that those things are emphasized.
It's a very unique way to see it, with perspective from it. Also, at your time that you spent at MIT, I know you were taught by Morris, Halley, and Chomsky, and etc. So did you? I mean, you went specifically in depth, and did you find the solution that you were looking for in your PhD? Because
yeah, actually,
did you really like get what you wanted to do? What did you go there in the first place?
Actually, I didn't have any expectations. I just wanted to learn linguistics, and the first month or so, or second month, I don't remember, I had a few cultural shocks. So there was a problem that I didn't quite understand. So I went to Morris Halley and, made an appointment and talked to him about the problem. And Morris says, okay, now what's the solution? So I said, I don't know, I was expecting you to tell me, because, if you have a student who doesn't know something, you go to a teacher and the teacher gives you the knowledge.
That's our classic way of doing
Morris
it, yeah.
said, I don't know everything in the world. You work on the problem, come back with a solution, and then we'll have an intelligent discussion out. So it was a shock for me, because here was this great God. He's saying, I don't know the answers. That itself was a shock. And the second part of it was, and the God tells me that what he can't do, he expects me to do.
Yeah.
That was even worse. But then, because when the God says, do this, you have to do it, right? So I went and thought about it and came up with a solution, went back to him, and then we discussed it, asked some questions, made some suggestions. I went back. It developed into a theory. It became now it's a kind of...
Yeah, it's part of it right now, yeah.
So this was the experience at MIT. You do these things and they develop into... As a first year student, some of the things that I did became circulated. It got circulated, and there was that kind of gave me a sense of confidence that what you do as a first year graduate student becomes part of the history of the discipline.
Yes.
So that's the cultural difference. And what I acquired was actually this culture of academic inquiry and some abilities for theory construction. It was a culture shock. I mean, I didn't
that would have been very surprising for the teacher like that to tell you have to go figure out the solution yourself, and you were the one asking the question in the first place.
And I had a similar culture shock from Chomsky. I said something of this kind to him. I came to MIT to learn the theory and apply the theory to Malayalam, for example.
Okay.
And he said, that's not your job as a graduate student. Your job is to contribute to the theory, not simply apply the theory. You have to build the theories yourself. And again, it was like forbidding,
to do that in our kind of our system.
How can a graduate student do that?
That you especially challenge someone like that, right? That's
so I learned to do research by challenging Chomsky.
Oh wow!
It was difficult.
Yeah.
So that's the only way to learn.
That's the best way of learning.
Yeah.
And like you said, the rote learning, when you learn something and you memorize it, when you're putting it on the paper, that isn't real learning. It should be in any situation. You don't need to remember. It should just come by itself.
Yeah.
So I also want to bring back in India, because I'm just trying to correlate this. I mean, it's amazing to have that kind of experience where we would want to have something like that in our country. But we have a lot of restrictions and a lot of ethics that actually come into play and a lot of problems that would cause this. So let's just forget about the logistics, because I know you don't want to get into that. Of course, I understood that. But what do you think can change? And like the questions that the teachers asked, which are right, of course, I understand them, what they're saying. But how do you change that? How do you think we can change India itself, start off?
Yeah. I can't answer that question. I can only say what we are trying to do.
Okay. Yeah.
So this organization called Think, that I mentioned, now we have something like 13 members in that group, and they came to us because we were offering an online course on inquiry and integration, and we get every year we get about 100, 150, whatever, some number of students, participants, and they learned the rudiments of inquiry in that course, and we select a small number from that, let's say 10, 12 people, and they go through a 9-day intense face-to-face program, and from that we select 1 or 2 people a year. So these 13 people are the result of the years of trying to, and they gradually learn how to do workshops of this kind, how to create materials, how to contribute to the creation of materials and so on. So we work together as a team, and we are hoping that in a few years there will be more and more people. We are trying to attract as many people as possible.
Large number, yeah.
And as the nucleus grows, and we have a reasonable number, they can do many more things that, and that work will continue. And we are hoping that it will gradually spread. So it's kind of like taking a candle and lighting something in a forest. Gradually it become a forest fire, is the hope. Of course, it may also just die out.
That's also
But I can't say we are confident that, but we hope,
to make sure. Yeah.
That's the only way we can think of, at least. And some of the people who have seen it work, even if they're not part of our group, they will be advocates in other places. So gradually schools would say, can you help us develop an inquiry program? Or colleges will help them. So it will gradually spread. People who see the value of doing this will gradually adopt it. That's the only way. It'll be slow.
Yeah, of course.
Incremental.
Because we've already come so far doing the same thing, it's tough to change. So you've already spoken about the ideal world, but I just want you to reiterate that and say it again. What is the legacy that you want to leave? Like you said, maybe 50 years from now, things might change. Of course, it cannot happen 10 years. Your ideal world, what do you think?
Legacy is a big word.
Again, yeah, legacy is So let's say.
You can say, what are we trying to do?
Yeah, basically your aim, your mission, what will the world be?
We can say we are trying to empower the young to do kinds of things with their mind that they are not right now capable of. So empowering the mind, empowering rationality, empowering imagination, insight, ability, the whole bunch of things which are associated with academic inquiry. We are trying to help the young acquire those things. And we are hoping that some of those people, when they get into powerful positions, they will start changing the world. That's the idea. So the legacy would be, what kind of forest fire are we trying to start?
And then that'll go on the whole world once you hit that domino. Yeah, that's basically all the questions I have.
Yeah.
That's, if you want to say anything, I mean, if you're good with it.
No, I think
it's perfect, right?
I was
it's
happy.